everyone, I'm Noah, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the relationship between sickle cell anemia and malaria. Everyone gets a mosquito bite on a hot summer night, but no one has the fear of dying from it. In countries closer to the equator, a bite could be fatal. In my high school and college career, I have learned, studied, and presented all about the relationship between these two diseases. I was recently lucky enough to attend a seminar hosted by the Doctors Without Borders, and they specialize in treatment of epidemics in third world countries and giving vaccinations to people who are without access. So the viral disease called malaria resides in Africa, Southern Asia, and Central America. The people in these countries have synthetic protectants against this disease, but none are as powerful as the biological protectant. So today, I'm going to inform you about the three important parts of this connection: red blood cell shape, the specific location, and the genetic components. I will explain the link between these diseases. Okay. The reason why this relationship can't exist is because of the misshapen red blood cells that a person with sickle cell anemia would produce. So sickle cell anemia is a genetically inherited protein mutation that warps hemoglobin and makes sickle cell-shaped red blood cells. These differently shaped cells cause a lot of problems in the body, such as strokes and blood clots that can prohibit oxygen from reaching certain areas of the body. This can cause acute chest syndrome, heart and kidney problems, and can cause a sickle cell crisis, which is a period of time that a person with sickle cell anemia would have chronic pain. These people have to be monitored for most of their life and do not live very long lives. Yet, the shape of the red blood cells can be a blessing in certain parts of the country. In countries with warmer temperatures, the Anopheles mosquito lives there because it only can live in countries with higher temperatures. The Anopheles mosquito carries the parasite called the Plasmodium parasite, which is the vector for malaria. A person with sickle cell anemia has a high immunity to malaria because the sickle cell prohibits the parasite from entering and infecting the cell. Okay, it is possible to be immune to malaria and not have to endure the complications that come with sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell is unique in that a person will only have the disease and the complications if they inherit 2 copies from their parents. So if they inherit, which means it is recessive. So they will be immune to malaria but still have all the problems with it. If they only inherit 1 copy, or according to the IGC in 2011, all of our traits are determined by our parents' genes, and sickle cell is no different. So raise your hand if you have blue eyes. Okay, so that's similar to sickle cell. It is recessive. Your parents gave you 2 of the blue eye genes, and you could have inherited 1 blood gene from your parents, and your eyes could have specks of blue in it. And this is really similar to sickle cell anemia, which is on this side here. So if you inherit just 1 sickle cell gene from your parent, that means you will not have any of the complications that go along with the disease, but you will still be immune to malaria. So this is obviously very important in the countries that I mentioned before. Okay, in certain areas have way more prominent levels of 1 or 2 of the sickle cell gene within the population, and it's all because of the levels of malaria in that country. So these 2 diseases tie in very closely to each other. Places with a high chance of malaria have far more sickle cell cases because the carriers live and reproduce and pass on that gene. So in America, sickle cell is not very widely known and talked about. I doubt any of you know anyone who has this disease. If you do, I'd be very surprised. But in countries close to the equator, it's very common. In a 2011 study by Linus Pauling, it was discovered that sickle cell anemia is very highly concentrated in areas such as Africa and Southern Asia, with areas where malaria is prevalent, often with 10 to 40% of the population having at least 1 or 2 of the genes. And if a foreigner was able to visit one of these countries, they would have a higher chance of catching malaria because they're not part of the general population and they don't share the protective genes. So throughout generations, they become more and more immune to the disease because the people with one of the genes actually keep passing down the protective genes, so which causes herd immunity, and there's a better, and it continues the cycle of immunity. Sickle cell is unique because this only applies with a person who has one of the genes. If they have two, they are less likely to live and reproduce, so they won't pass down those weaker genes. So sickle cell anemia is a very complicated disease, and all of the components I've spoken about today are products from thousands of years of mutations, evolutions, and natural selection. Today, I have furthered your understanding of the three important parts of the connection between sickle cell anemia and malaria: the red blood cell shape, specific locations, and genetic components. Both types of inheritance result in immunity because of the shape of the red blood cells, but only people who inherit one of the sickle cell gene continues to pass down their genes to next generations. Due to the discovery of this relationship between the two diseases, scientists have changed their thinking about different cures and different methods of fighting these diseases and have found new connections within others. Sickle cell anemia's effect on malaria may help in finding a cure for the actual disease and could save people all over the world. Thanks.